Imagine sitting across from a hypnotist. He looks at you calmly. He says, "Your eyes are getting heavy." You think to yourself, "Well, obviously, it's 3 in the morning." The hypnotist says, "When you press your fingers together, you won't be able to pull them apart." You press your fingers together. A few seconds later, you try to pull them apart, but your fingers won't separate. You stare at your hand in surprise. The first thought that comes to your mind is, "This guy controlled my mind." But what actually happened? Does hypnosis mean that someone can enter your brain and press your control buttons? Can they force you to do anything they want, like a robot? Or is the story of hypnosis completely different? To understand the answer, we need to enter the strange world of the human brain. First, we need to get rid of one common misconception. Hypnosis does not mean falling asleep. A hypnotized person is not necessarily unconscious or unaware of their surroundings. One important part of hypnosis is intense focused attention, like when you become so absorbed in a movie that you stop noticing the sounds around you, or when you are playing a game and suddenly realize that 2 hours have passed. Your brain has not been hacked. Your attention is simply so focused on one thing that everything else becomes less important. Hypnosis uses this very feature of the brain. During hypnosis, focused attention can become even more intense, and a person may become more responsive to certain suggestions. Now imagine a strange experiment. The hypnotist asks you to raise your hand. Then he tells you to imagine that several balloons are attached to your hand. You look at your hand. Nothing happens. Then he says that each balloon is pulling your hand a little higher. A few moments later, your hand rises slightly. Now the question is, did the hypnotist control your hand? Not exactly. You are still the one moving your hand. But your brain processed a suggestion in a different way. The human brain does not simply receive reality. The brain is constantly constructing our experience of reality. Hypnotic suggestions can influence that experience. This effect can be seen in attention, perception, and even motor control. But now we get to something movies absolutely love. The hypnotist says, "You are a chicken." The person suddenly starts walking like a chicken. Everyone around them starts laughing. The viewer thinks, "So hypnosis means you do whatever you're told." But wait, reality is not that simple. People differ greatly in how responsive they are to hypnotic suggestions. Some people are highly responsive. Some people have a moderate level of responsiveness. And some people barely show any reaction at all. So if you perform the same experiment on 10 people, you probably won't get 10 identical results. One person might genuinely feel that their hand has become heavy. Another person might simply look at the hypnotist and say, "What are you doing?" So can hypnosis force a person to do anything we want? This is where the myth of mind control begins to fall apart. Hypnosis does not mean taking away a person's complete control over themselves. Suggestions can influence a person's behavior and experience, but the outcome depends on several different factors. A person's level of responsiveness is one of those factors. A person's expectations about hypnosis also matter. The circumstances in which hypnosis takes place matter too. Hypnosis is not a remote control for the brain. I wish it were. Imagine someone simply saying, "Get up and clean the room." And the other person replies, "I can't, I'm hypnotized." But the reality is that they still have to clean the room themselves. Now we get to an even more interesting part. Pain. Imagine that your hand is injured. Your body sends pain signals to your brain. Your brain then interprets those signals. Now imagine that hypnotic techniques change how you experience that pain. Research has shown that hypnosis can play a role in modulating the experience of pain. Changes in brain activity have even been observed during hypnosis. This means the injury may still be real, but the subjective experience of pain can change. This reveals something very important. Pain is not simply a direct wire between the body and the brain. The brain plays a role in determining how we experience a signal. Now we reach an even stranger part of the story. Memories. Imagine the hypnotist saying, "Now go back to when you were 5 years old." You close your eyes. You see a house. You see a room. You see a toy. You hear someone's voice. Everything feels completely real. You might even confidently say, "I remember. That's exactly what happened." But there is a big problem here. A memory feeling real does not mean that the memory actually happened. Human memory is not like a video camera. We reconstruct our memories again and again. Each time, parts of them can change. Hypnotic suggestions can influence this process. Therefore, hypnosis is not always a reliable tool for discovering accurate memories from the past. It may even contribute to the formation of false or distorted memories. Imagine someone saying after hypnosis, "I remember. When I was 4 years old, a dinosaur walked into the kitchen." We should not immediately believe that such an event actually happened. Maybe the brain simply created a very convincing story. And that is exactly what makes hypnosis so strange. We like to think of the brain as a camera. Something happens. The camera records it. Later, we open the file. But that is not how the brain works. The brain reconstructs memories. And each time, something in them may change. A powerful suggestion can make this mental experience even more convincing. So you may feel that something is completely real, even though it never actually happened. That means that after years of research, one big question still remains. What exactly is happening inside the brain? So what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is not magic. Hypnosis is not magical sleep either. Hypnosis is not a remote control for the human brain. Hypnosis has more to do with attention, expectation, and subjective experience. Hypnosis can make you feel that something is heavier. It can change your experience of pain. It can focus your attention on a particular subject. And it can make you respond differently to a suggestion. But that does not mean you completely lose control of yourself. Now let's return to the first question. Can hypnosis control your mind? Not in the way movies portray it. Hypnosis is not going to turn you into a robot. But maybe reality is even stranger than that. To change our experience of the world, someone does not always need to control our minds. Sometimes, all it takes is changing our attention. A small suggestion, an expectation, an image, and then the brain builds the rest of the story itself. You might feel something as heavier. You might experience pain differently. You might even feel that something is completely real when it never actually happened. So hypnosis is neither magic nor complete mind control. Hypnosis mainly shows us how complex and adaptable the human brain is. And perhaps that is the strangest part of all. Your brain can use a simple suggestion to create an experience that feels completely real to you. So the next time someone says, "Hypnosis is just a trick," the answer may not be that simple. And if someone else says, "Hypnosis means complete mind control," the answer is not that simple either. Because the truth lies somewhere between the two. And one strange question still remains. If your brain can make something feel real simply because of a suggestion, how can you be sure that even right now, you are experiencing everything exactly as it really is?